Religion has been a fundamental part of human civilization for tens of thousands of years, shaping cultures, societies, and individual lives across every continent and throughout history. From ancient cave paintings depicting spiritual rituals to modern places of worship found in every corner of the globe, humanity's quest to understand the divine and our place in the universe has remained constant. But which religion can claim to be the oldest in the world? This seemingly simple question opens a complex investigation that takes us on a journey through archaeological discoveries, ancient texts, and oral traditions that stretch back to the very dawn of human consciousness. To answer this question, we must first understand what defines a religion and then examine the evidence for various spiritual traditions that have survived the test of time. Defining religion itself presents the first challenge in our investigation. Modern scholars generally agree that religion involves a system of beliefs and practices related to the sacred or divine, often including concepts of supernatural beings, moral codes, rituals, and explanations for existence and the afterlife. However, this definition becomes complicated when we consider that many ancient spiritual practices did not fit neatly into these categories, and that the distinction between religion, mythology, and cultural tradition can be blurred, especially when examining prehistoric societies. Archaeological evidence suggests that humans have engaged in spiritual or religious behavior for at least 100,000 years, with some researchers arguing that evidence of religious thought can be traced back even further. The discovery of intentional burials dating to around 100,000 years ago indicates that early humans possessed concepts of an afterlife or spiritual realm beyond physical existence. Cave paintings from sites like Lascaux in France and Altamira in Spain, dating back 17,000 to 40,000 years, show evidence of shamanic practices and spiritual rituals that may represent some of humanity's earliest organized religious expressions. However, when we speak of the world's oldest religions, we typically refer to organized belief systems that have maintained some form of continuity to the present day, rather than prehistoric spiritual practices that have been lost to time. Using this criteria, several major religions emerge as candidates for the title of world's oldest, with each presenting compelling evidence for their ancient origins. Aboriginal Australian spiritual traditions present perhaps the strongest case for being the world's oldest continuous religious practice. Archaeological evidence suggests that Aboriginal Australians have maintained their spiritual beliefs and practices for over 50,000 years, making their traditions potentially the oldest unbroken religious system on Earth. The Dreamtime, the central concept in Aboriginal spirituality, describes the timeless realm where ancestral spirits created the land and established the laws that govern both the physical and spiritual worlds. These beliefs are passed down through oral tradition, rock art, and ceremonial practices that have remained remarkably consistent across millennia. The Aboriginal spiritual system encompasses complex creation stories, detailed knowledge of the land and its creatures, intricate ceremonial practices, and a sophisticated understanding of astronomy and natural cycles. Sacred sites across Australia, some dating back tens of thousands of years, continue to play important roles in Aboriginal spiritual life today. The continuity of these traditions, despite thousands of years of environmental change and more recent colonial disruption, demonstrates the remarkable resilience and antiquity of Aboriginal Australian religion. Hinduism, often called the world's oldest major organized religion, presents another strong candidate for antiquity. The roots of Hindu tradition can be traced back to the Indus Valley civilization, which flourished between 3,300 and 1,300 BCE in what is now Pakistan and northwest India. Archaeological discoveries from Harappan sites have revealed seals and artifacts that suggest religious practices, including ritual bathing, sacred animals, and possibly early forms of yoga or meditation. The famous Pashupati seal, depicting a figure in a yoga-like pose surrounded by animals, may represent an early form of the Hindu god Shiva. The Vedic period, beginning around 1500 BCE, saw the composition of the Rig Veda, the oldest of the four Vedas, which form the foundation of Hindu scripture. These ancient texts contain hymns, prayers, and rituals that establish many of the core concepts of Hinduism, including dharma, karma, reincarnation, and the worship of multiple deities. The Vedic tradition evolved over centuries, incorporating local beliefs and practices to create the complex religious system we recognize as Hinduism today. What makes Hinduism particularly significant in discussions of religious antiquity is its continuous evolution and practice over more than 3,000 years, making it not only ancient, but also actively practiced by over 1 billion people worldwide. Ancient Egyptian religion developed around 3100 BCE, following the unification of Upper and Lower Egypt under the first pharaoh, and continued for over 3,000 years until the rise of Christianity in the region. The Egyptian religious system was characterized by complex mythology centered around gods like Ra, the sun, god Osiris, the god of the underworld, and Isis, the goddess of magic and motherhood. The Egyptians developed sophisticated beliefs about the afterlife, including detailed practices for mummification and burial, designed to ensure the deceased's successful journey to the next world. The Egyptian religion profoundly influenced later religious traditions, with concepts like judgment after death, divine kingship, and elaborate temples and rituals. The pyramid texts, dating to around 2400 BCE, represent some of the world's oldest religious literature, providing detailed instructions for the pharaoh's journey to the afterlife. While ancient Egyptian religion eventually declined with the spread of Christianity and Islam, its influence can still be seen in various modern spiritual movements, and its monuments continue to inspire awe and wonder today. Zoroastrianism, founded by the prophet Zoroaster, also known as Zarathustra, emerged in ancient Persia sometime between 1000 and 600 BCE, though some scholars argue for even earlier origins. This religion introduced revolutionary concepts that would profoundly influence later monotheistic faiths, including the worship of a single supreme deity, Ahura Mazda, the cosmic struggle between good and evil, the concept of free will and divine judgment after death. Zoroastrian teachings about heaven, hell, angels, demons, and a savior figure who will resurrect the dead bear striking similarities to later Jewish, Christian, and Islamic beliefs. The Avesta, the sacred text of Zoroastrianism, contains the Gathas, which are believed to be the direct words of Zoroaster himself, making them among the oldest religious texts attributed to a specific founder. Despite persecution and declining numbers, Zoroastrianism continues to be practiced today, primarily by Parsi communities in India and Iran, representing an unbroken religious tradition spanning over 2,500 years. Judaism, while not necessarily the oldest religion, holds special significance as the foundation of the Abrahamic faiths that include Christianity and Islam. The Hebrew Bible, or Tanakh, contains texts that may date back to around 1200 BCE, though the religion's oral traditions claim much earlier origins, with Abraham around 2000 BCE. Archaeological evidence for early Israelite religion includes inscriptions and artifacts from the 10th century BCE, though the development of monotheistic Judaism, as we know it today, likely occurred during the Babylonian exile in the 6th century BCE. The Jewish concept of ethical monotheism, the idea that there is one God who demands moral behavior from humanity, profoundly influenced Western civilization and later religious traditions. The Hebrew Bible's creation stories, moral codes, and historical narratives have shaped not only Jewish identity, but also Christian and Islamic theology, making Judaism's ancient origins particularly significant for understanding the development of world religions. Ancient Chinese religious traditions, including elements that would later develop into Taoism and Confucianism, also claim considerable antiquity. The I Ching, or Book of Changes, may date back to around 1000 BCE and contains philosophical and spiritual concepts that influenced Chinese thought for millennia. The worship of ancestors and the concept of the mandate of heaven appeared in Chinese culture during the Shang dynasty around 1600 BCE, representing some of the oldest continuous religious practices in East Asia. Buddhism, founded by Siddhartha Gautama, the Buddha in the 5th century BCE, represents another ancient religious tradition that continues to influence billions of people worldwide. While Buddhism is younger than many of the religions discussed earlier, its rapid spread across Asia and its profound philosophical insights about suffering, enlightenment, and compassion have made it one of the world's major religious traditions. The Buddhist concept of karma and rebirth shares similarities with Hindu beliefs, suggesting possible common origins in ancient Indian spiritual traditions. The question of the world's oldest religion becomes even more complex when we consider that many ancient spiritual practices were not mutually exclusive, and that religious syncretism, the blending of different religious traditions, has been a constant throughout human history. Ancient peoples often incorporated elements from multiple spiritual systems, creating hybrid traditions that defied simple categorization. This process continues today as globalization brings different religious traditions into contact and creates new forms of spiritual expression. Modern archaeological discoveries continue to shed new light on ancient religious practices, with sites like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey challenging our understanding of early religious development. This massive temple complex, dating to around 11,000 years ago, predates Stonehenge by thousands of years and suggests that organized religious practices may have played a crucial role in the development of human civilization itself. The site's elaborate stone pillars, carved with religious symbols, indicate that hunter-gatherer societies were capable of complex spiritual beliefs and large-scale religious construction projects. The study of ancient religions also reveals fascinating connections between different traditions with similar creation stories, flood myths and hero narratives appearing across cultures that had no apparent contact with each other. These parallels suggest either common origins in humanity's distant past or fundamental aspects of human psychology that naturally lead to similar spiritual concepts. The work of scholars like Joseph Campbell and Mircea Eliade has highlighted these universal themes in religious mythology and their continued relevance to modern spiritual seekers. Indigenous religions from around the world, including those of Native American tribes, African traditional religions, and Pacific Islander spiritual practices, often claim origins that stretch back thousands of years. These traditions frequently emphasize humanity's connection to the natural world, the importance of ancestral wisdom, and the cyclical nature of life and death. While these religions may not have written texts or formal organizational structures, their oral traditions and ceremonial practices often preserve ancient knowledge and spiritual insights that predate many written religious texts. The question of the world's oldest religion ultimately depends on how we define religion itself and what criteria we use to measure antiquity. If we focus on continuous practice, Aboriginal Australian spiritual traditions appear to be the oldest, with evidence of unbroken religious activity stretching back over 50,000 years. If we consider organized religious systems with written texts and formal structures, Hinduism and ancient Egyptian religion present strong cases for antiquity. If we emphasize influence on later religious development, Zoroastrianism and Judaism played crucial roles in shaping modern religious thought. Perhaps the most important insight from studying ancient religions is not which one is oldest, but rather how they reveal humanity's enduring quest to understand our place in the universe and our relationship with the divine. From the earliest cave paintings to modern places of worship, humans have consistently sought meaning, purpose, and connection through religious and spiritual practices. These ancient traditions continue to offer wisdom, guidance, and comfort to billions of people worldwide, demonstrating that the human need for religious expression transcends time, culture, and geography. The legacy of ancient religions extends far beyond their historical significance, influencing art, literature, philosophy, science, and social structures throughout human civilization. Many modern ethical principles, legal systems, and cultural practices can be traced back to ancient religious teachings, showing how these spiritual traditions continue to shape our world today. Understanding the origins and development of world religions provides valuable insights into human nature, cultural evolution, and the universal themes that unite all people, regardless of their specific beliefs. The search for the world's oldest religion also highlights the importance of preserving and respecting diverse spiritual traditions, especially those of indigenous peoples whose oral traditions and ceremonial practices maintain connections to humanity's earliest religious expressions. As globalization and modernization threaten traditional ways of life, protecting these ancient spiritual traditions becomes increasingly important for maintaining cultural diversity and understanding our shared human heritage. In conclusion, while we may never definitively answer the question of the world's oldest religion, The investigation itself reveals the rich tapestry of human spiritual experience and the remarkable continuity of religious practice throughout history. Whether we look to Aboriginal Australian Dreamtime traditions, Hindu Vedic practices, ancient Egyptian beliefs, or Zoroastrian teachings, each ancient religion offers unique insights into humanity's eternal quest to understand the sacred and our place within the greater cosmos. Their enduring influence reminds us that religious and spiritual seeking represents one of humanity's most fundamental and persistent characteristics, spanning from our earliest ancestors to the present day. Thanks for watching. If you find this information useful, please give us a thumbs up and share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more videos, exploring the fascinating world of religion, history, and human culture.